Welcome to Composers Play. My name is Scott Tobin. For the last 10 years, I've been composing music for video games, such as Project Reality, Squad, and Postscriptum. The concept of Composers Play was brought on from my passion for video game music. So, join me as I relive, discuss, and get a little nostalgic with the composers of some of the most memorable video game music. Hey, and welcome to Composers Play. Today I'm going to be playing System Shock, and I'm going to be joined by the original composer and sound designer, Greg LoPiccolo. Greg, thanks for joining me.
Happy to be here.
This is going to be great. Have I got that right, LoPiccolo? Is that correct pronunciation?
Yeah, no, you got it. Yeah, which is a rarity.
Yeah, cool.
People stumble.
Yeah, I was kind of practicing beforehand, you know.
Oh, well, fun.
Awesome. So so let's get going here. Now I'm probably gonna play this on a little bit easier, cause it isn't easy.
That's fine. I won't judge you.
Brilliant. So so before we get chatting about System Shock, Greg, can you tell us how you kind of got into the scene back in the 90s?
So I was in a band. I'm from Boston, and I was in a band in the late 80s, and a friend of mine worked at Looking Glass right when they were wrapping up Underworld 2,
right,
and starting to think about System Shock. And I went to visit my friend. Went to get lunch with my friend at Looking Glass, and I met Doug and Dan Schmidt, Doug Church, Dan Schmidt,
right,
and they asked me if I was interested in, they had heard of my band, sort of knew my band. They asked if I was interested in doing music, so I said sure, because I didn't have any money.
Right.
So it was a paying gig, and so I just started working, and that's how I got involved. And then maybe a year later, the band broke up, and Looking Glass was sort of thriving at that point, where they were starting new games and so forth. So I went back to them and said, I think you need a full-time sound guy. Right. And they basically said, okay, you can start tomorrow.
Wow.
And then I actually ended up recruiting some of my bandmates to also do music. So Terry Brocious, the voice of Shodan, I got her
right. Yeah, of course.
Involved to be Shodan, but she did a lot of wrote a lot of the songs that the band did. So she got involved with writing music.
Oh wow.
And her husband Eric, who was the guitar player in the band, he started writing music. And then he went on to become the Looking Glass audio director and did, Sound for Thief and System Shock 2, and then went on to work with Ken Levine at Irrational. And,
wow, okay.
Did a bunch of games there.
Wow.
So between the three of us, we've done a lot of game audio over the years.
Yeah. Jeez, I can imagine. That's amazing how it's just a small group, has because this game was probably the most influential game for the games that were brought, after Deus Ex and Thief and all these other games, this is a staple game for, this kind of genre,
No, this is the game where a lot of things were introduced,
Yeah.
and looking back on it seems really crude, it's we would probably do it differently now. It's
Yeah.
Not the easiest game to play.
No, it's not, but it holds up very well, the controls are maybe not as friendly as modern games, but
No, but it's got a lot of ideas in it, and I think that all of us that worked on it are still proud of the ideas.
Definitely.
It tried to do a lot.
Yeah. Especially this 3D kind of thing as well. Wow.
Yeah, and all the RPG elements and. Even just the score, I remember, just trying to come up with, how to do an actual, dynamic, interactive score that responded to the player state.
Right, yeah, because you go through different parts of the level, and you get the music comes in differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. How did you achieve that, actually? The transitions between the levels, was it triggers?
So it was basically all the music. So I would write more or less linear scores and then chop them up into 4-bar chunks. And then I would write each one at basically 3 levels. There was walking around level, a peril level, and a combat level.
Right.
And then there was, so hooks into the game where it would, and I don't even remember, I'm not sure if I ever knew exactly how it detected the player's peril level, but it was, it was sort of like, oh, there's no monsters nearby, there's monsters in proximity, or you're fighting the monsters.
Right.
And what it would do is, like, if that state changed, it would wait till the next, like, 4-bar boundary and then transition to that version of the score.
Right,
so
gotcha.
it could sort of maintain linear melodies and so forth, kind of going forward, but adjusting, like on every 4-bar boundary, it had an opportunity to adjust the intensity of what was going on, which worked pretty well.
Yeah, it definitely does. What kind of music did Doug Church want for the soundtrack? Was he specific on a certain type of music, or?
To be honest, I don't really remember like how much guidance I got. I think that we had a consensus that it should be, sort of electronic and cybernetic, to match the vibe of the game.
Right.
But beyond that, I think it was more like, well, go see what you can come up with. And then I wrote some stuff and I brought it back, and they're like, yeah, that'll be fine.
Well, really, first time, like.
I think so, pretty much. I can't really remember, to tell you the truth, like what specific feedback I got. I mean, I think they liked some of the scores better than others, but we would talk about sort of the vibe of each of the levels,
right,
and what it should be like, and then I would try to write stuff to kind of match that vibe.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And like, so what were you listening to? When you were writing the score, did you like keep away from all music, or were you taking stuff in and to try to get like a feeling for it?
So I was completely ignorant of mods or any of that. I was pretty much listening to kind of like indie rock.
Okay,
whatever. Somebody did like a review of the game in the last 5 years and pointed out like a lot of similarities between some of what I came up with in the first 9 Inch Nails record, which I then went back and listened to. It's like, oh yeah, I totally must have been listening to that.
Yeah, that's
it's like
right.
a straight rip from 9 Inch Nails. There's definitely some of that in there.
Yeah, definitely. You could definitely hear some of that, but it's really cool.
Yeah, and some of the kind of their, it's like Trent Reznor's like techniques for like all that like sped up percussion. That was totally like, I totally got that off of that.
Yeah.
Inch Nails. It's like, oh, that's how you do that,
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I love the 9 Inch Nails stuff. So I was like, I could definitely, hear it. I don't know, like one of the tracks you probably recognize it. It's that one that goes. It's very, very Trent Reznor kind of vibe off it.
Yeah. It's the reactor thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So yeah, those were the influence, some of that, and also the things like Tangerine Dream and Kraftwerk, and just the electronic music that had come before. Was sort of kind of
right.
That.
What was your composition process? You're a bass player, so did you go to your bass, or did you go to the keyboard, or?
No, keyboard. It was all basically
right.
just the keyboard. Driving the sound canvas. So I did
right.
all the writing, basically on the sound canvas, and tried to get it as good as I could on that, and then
cool.
Would have to translate to the Sound Blaster. And also there was a card called the Gravis Ultrasound.
Yes, yeah, I remember.
And that had its own. It had a little bit of memory, actual sample memory on the card.
Right.
And so I did, and then the team wanted to support that card. Like that was a pretty prominent card, and so I had spent like a bunch of time just rolling custom samples for that card, so that if you had that card, you could download a whole sample set, and have like custom sounds, which was like kind of a cutting edge thing at that point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm actually playing this in the easiest mode. These guys usually don't take just the one hit.
It's just
it's carnage, So people are probably like, "What's he doing?" But yeah, no, I've done a few of these composers play, and they're impossible when the game's really hard. It's like trying to concentrate, talking to yourself and playing the game.
No, totally. Yeah, you can't do both those things at the same time.
Yeah, I'm getting better at it though as I go, but.
It's funny because I haven't seen any of this, like any of this stuff in a really long time.
Oh, really? Does it bring back any funny memories or any good memories?
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, I just heard that the score just switched on the boundary, and now it's the combat layer.
That's it.
And then after you kill everybody, it should just snap back to like the. No, it's still in the combat mode.
Still in the combat, yeah. I think I have to do something to, yeah.
And now it's a different score.
Yeah. I don't remember this one. I've played this game like about 20. Well, when it came out about 20 something years ago, and I just after playing it, I was talking to my brothers, and I was like, "Geez, I forgot how difficult it is." Now, I was playing it on the different difficulty, but yeah, it's certainly not easy.
No. No, it was punishing.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, do you have all the audio logs? Are those all? Do you have all the audio for those going?
I think so. Yeah. Here we go.
Shodan security is closing down on us. The elevators are frozen. Myra keeps saying that it's the camera.
Because that was a whole ordeal where we had to like recruit, everybody on the team.
That's all fine, but I don't really see how.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is everywhere.
So with these guys here, were they like part of the team? Like, were they all friends? Yeah.
Yeah, this
cool.
guy here, this is James Fleming, who was a graphics programmer, who's actually
Cool.
still a good friend of mine years later.
No way.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, so I'm in there, I do one, like everybody does, like some
Activity.
people do multiple ones, and then there was a whole process of trying to come up with like ambient beds, to kind of depict the different levels, in terms of machinery or,
Right, yeah. So does anybody ever come up to yourself, or is it Terry that she did the voice for Shodan? Does she ever get recognized, or?
I don't. Well, I mean, nobody knows what she looks like, so from that perspective, I think she's gotten a little bit of fan attention over the years.
Right.
It's like because that depiction that definitely was sort of seemed like it was impactful on some people.
Definitely, yeah.
It's like Shodan always makes those like top 50 video game villains of all time kind of lists.
That's right, yeah. So are you?
That was really.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that was really fun to work on. It was it was great to to get to participate in making that character. It's fun.
Sure, yeah, because it's definitely one of the most memorable characters. Like really evil, sinister kind of vibe from her.
So sorry, what you were gonna ask something?
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about the just some of the sound design and some of the how you made the Shodan voice and that.
Well, that was so Austin wrote the script, and so then we just just recorded all of Terry's just clean voiceover, and then I think I built a bed of just like lots of bits of hers, just like chopped them all up in sequence and did a few layers, and so there was this kind of like burbly undercurrent for her voice.
Right.
It was just made of like lots and lots of layers of just like syllables of her talking, just chopped up and like layered over each other. So that was the bed, and then
Gotcha.
I could only do a few things. I could speed things down. I could slow them up. I could speed things up and slow them down, and I could chop things. And that was pretty much all I had access to. I didn't have any sort of like DSP effects or anything, and so then I just would try to like. To craft it such that the first Shodan you hear is just a bit glitchy. It's like It's mostly pretty mannered, and then it's got a few sort of like disquieting like hiccups in it. And then as you move your way through the game, like the final pronouncements, it's again totally ripped off from 2001, right? Where it's like when he's like shutting down the computer and it's degrading.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
It was basically just like slamming that up against like max headroom. And that was it. That was the idea, so that like the later you would get into the game as she was starting to come apart, that it would be more and more
degraded,
chaotic and processed.
Wow.
And it was an incredible amount of work.
Oh, really?
Like Oh yeah, because I went into it was like, yeah, I'll do all these logs, it'll be great, you know. And then when I actually got into it, the actual amount of work necessary to get each of those logs was like off the charts. I just sat there for like weeks.
Wow.
You know, to do all that stuff.
Of course, you were just starting off, so I'm sure you were discovering, you know, new things as you went.
Yeah, totally. You know, and then finally, once I kind of figured out the formula, then it was just a production job. But yeah, it was very labor intensive because there was no. It's not like now, you know, when you can just open up your digital audio workstation and have like, you know, like you could probably whip up a good Shodan in a half hour now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
But, at that point, it was all handcrafted.
Wow. Yeah, I think we take things for granted. You know, the stuff that we have now. You know, Pro Tools and all these. You know, even Logic and that, you could do so much with them, and yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things I've found is like the tools are way better now, but there was something about those limitations and just pushing up against them that resulted in some, like, you know, interesting stuff coming out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just
Actually, I've heard that.
Like, sorry.
Yeah, I was talking to other composers of this era. Kevin Schilder from Heretic and Hex, and he said the same thing. You know, these limitations kind of gave you a different edge and a different perspective on it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because and the music that came out of it, I think was kind of interesting. I mean, just like, you know, I would never do that now, but just the idea of just trying to hack a rolling sound canvas, you know, to come up with weird sounds.
Yeah.
You know, that ended up being a pretty good approach.
Sure. Do you have a favorite song from System Shock that you'd be proud of?
Oh, I think the Reactor one, the you know, the Nine Inch Nails ripoff one.
Yeah.
I think holds up pretty well as like sort of like, you know, doom rock.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. That's one of my favorite ones as well. I think it's later on in the executive area.
Yeah, that's the executive one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. That's probably my favorite one. So, like, what was your because the System Shock soundtrack has like, it's kind of like lots of muted guitars, synths, kind of pan flutes, which is you know, organs, you know, loads of different percussion instruments, breath noises, such a strange and fretless bass as well that comes in at the end of this song. Yeah, there's such a huge. You just used everything, you know.
Yeah, it was really, you know, it was sort of desperation, you know, because I was trying to get stuff to sound, you know, not acoustic, but sort of like electronic, and so it was really a lot of just laboriously like sorting through lots of things, and then it's like, oh, what would this sound like 4 octaves up, and what would it sound, you know, if I added a lot of, you know, pitch bend to it, and there was also like a lot of sort of hacked. Like I would use MIDI delay, right? I would, you know, like make echoes just with extra MIDI notes with the velocity turned down on the repeats.
Sure, yeah.
Or I would, you know, do fake chorus things where I would just pan something left and right and then detune them slightly, you know, with just, you know, with pitch bend values, like, you know, lots of just like fake effects.
Fake effects, yeah, but they're really cleverly done. Really smartly done. Like the pitch bend, I was looking at one of the songs. I think it was. Yeah, it just has like, you know, you have your pitch bend, but it's up and down, up and down, up and down. It gives us kind of wobble kind of tuned effect, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was just, you know, it was basically, it's like, okay, I have this tiny little set of things I can do. Like, you know, let's just like push it as hard as I can and get as many different sounds out of it as I can. You know.
Right. What else? The one we were talking about was this one.
That's I haven't listened to this music in like 20 years. That's crazy.
Really?
No.
That's gas. It's probably bringing back some memories.
Right, and here's the this is the Reactor theme.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I did a remix of this with like real synths and stuff.
Oh, really?
And that's like floating out there on the internet someplace. It, like, you know, did it with like, you know, actual, you know, analog synths and whatnot.
Cool.
Which came out pretty good.
So do you play much games now, Greg, or are you
Somewhat. You know, I'm sort of like a mild gamer. You know, I'll probably tackle 2 or 3 in a given year, but I don't play everything that comes out. You know.
But of course you're in. I'm a big Rock Band and Guitar Hero fan, so you're kind of vital in that, starting up that thing. I'm right in saying that.
No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I spent like when I left Looking Glass, I went to Harmonix, and then I was sort of creative director for Guitar Hero 1 and Rock Band 1, and
wow.
Kind of like led the creative aspects of the studio making those games. So yeah, that's what I've been doing ever since Looking Glass, really up until recently. Yeah.
They're such amazingly fun games. I mean, I'd play it with my friends, and you could just spend hours, you know.
Yeah, I'm really proud of those games. I think they think
amazing.
I think they turned out, got a lot of good feedback from people who, were introduced to new kinds of music and whatnot, just through playing those games.
Right. And are you still writing music now, or are you still playing?
Yeah. I'm in a band. I'm a couple of bands, but like my main band is a band called Dark Wheels, which actually is Eric from Tribe. Who
cool.
worked with me at Looking Glass, and some other people, some Harmonix people. So I write songs for that band, and play out, and record, and so forth.
Cool. That's good. It's good to hear.
Yeah. I still do it. It's still fun.
I'm guessing you heard a bit about the System Shock remake that's coming up.
Yes, System. Well, there's the System Shock 3 that Warren Spector's working on,
right?
And then there was a reboot of System Shock 1,
right?
And I'm not sure what the status of that is at this point.
Yeah, I kind of read a little bit about it, and yeah, it was stopped, and then I think it's going again, but I'm not too sure. I've heard mixed things about the remake of this System Shock, and people were saying, just bring back the old music, but just redo it, with modern kind of synths and stuff.
I talked to the guy who was doing it. He tracked me down, and we had like a phone conversation where I explained how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of had the same thought. It's like, yeah, you should just because you could do it. I mean, you could make it sound great now,
Yeah, definitely. Well, it sounds great already to me, but
well, but in a charming way. But right, it's definitely general MIDI. Whereas you could just bounce all these tracks out into actually polished.
Yeah. Good sounding synths and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and it would be just with effects on them and so forth. So
Right. So do you have any really good memories from back when you were working?
Well, it was like the first game project I had ever worked on, and so, in retrospect, now having made the number of games that I've made and been on all the teams I've been on and so forth, it's like I'm sort of. And I think this is true for everybody that was on the team, is just sort of blown away by the ambition, a lot of it was driven by Doug, but not only Doug, but he was clearly the visionary leader and so forth. But
right.
People's like, yeah, let's build cyberspace. How hard could that be? And then they were just going to do it, they would just in terms of all the different things that that they wanted to do, and I was sort of on the periphery of that at that point. I was really just the sound guy,
right?
But no, I have great memories of actually recruiting everybody to to do all the logs, and then
right.
I'd have my little room, and they'd come in, and I'd be like, no, you're being killed by robots, scream louder, and some of them were great at it, it's like you had these hidden talents of people who could really act,
Right, yeah, definitely.
And you can hear all that in the logs. Some of them are clearly some people not comfortable with it, and some other people just totally leaned into it. It was, so that was really fun.
Yeah.
It was fun collecting all the sounds. I went to the guy who fixes, my mechanic, basically. I went down there with a digital, recorder and spent like an afternoon with him just like banging on stuff,
Cool.
just like throwing wrenches against the wall and, with all of his power tools and so forth.
Right. I was looking up on, just on YouTube, I found the System Shock soundtrack, and some of the comments were brilliant, One guy said, I loved the elevator music. It gave a kind of brevity from the game's overall dark tone, and then all hail Shodan.
Oh, that was fun, actually, because that was it's like, oh, we need elevator music, and I think it was my idea. I don't really remember, but it's like, oh, elevator, like that's a thing, that's a cliche, and I had a friend, and I wasn't really competent to write that kind of music, but I had a friend who was like a, like a schooled jazz guy.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I had him over for an afternoon, and I was like, we need elevator music, and we just like whipped it up.
That's great.
And it was fun, it totally worked exactly as intended. You go in the because the thing was, the elevator was safe space, right? You couldn't get attacked in the elevator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it was like this nice little banal interlude.
Yeah. Because the game's quite dark, and then you have something like the elevator music, this music. It's very funny.
No, because there's a lot of there's a lot of dark humor embedded in the game,
Right. Yeah.
Like where you got to take the guy's head, to pass the retinal scan. Like,
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
There's a bunch of, there's a bunch of stuff in there that's like, actually, at the time I thought was quite witty,
Yeah.
So the elevator music was very much in that spirit.
Definitely, yeah. Oh, here's Shodan now.
Who are you? The computer
what does
nodes
Shodan
can
have
be
to say to us?
repaired, but you... Who are you? My cameras and probes scan your body, but you do not match any employee file. When my cyborgs bring you to an electrified interrogation bench, I will have your secret, and you will learn more about pain than you ever wanted to know.
That's amazing. I remember playing this when I was like, I was only about maybe 10 or so, and that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
It's creepy,
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to hear it. It's like...
it's amazing. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't want to keep you too long, Greg, because I know you have to go and that. But is there anything that you want to, just anything you want to say, or because the reason why I'm doing this series is because I want to keep this music fresh, and get people to hear it, and hear your thoughts from when you were creating this music.
I guess the one thing I guess I would want to say is like I'm sort of like surprised and grateful that anybody still cares about this.
Yeah.
Because for me it was a long time ago.
Right.
And and it mattered to me at the time. I put a lot of effort into it, along with everybody else on this team, and I think for all of us it's kind, we're all off to other things now, but it's kind of gratifying that that any of this still matters to anybody,
Right.
It's gratifying, it's validating,
Yeah,
I can tell you there's lots of other work I did that that nobody remembers, it's just
Right.
like lost in the ages,
Right. Okay.
So yeah. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
I know, thank you so much, Greg, for taking the time out to do this. It's been really fun, actually, and I loved hearing your feedback on all this stuff. Because growing up, this is these games I played, and I always wanted to be a music composer, but be a music composer for video games, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. That's my profession. I'm working on video game music, and if it wasn't for you and these other composers, I probably wouldn't be doing it.
Well, congratulations, man, and more power to you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I wish you the best in it.
Thank you so much.